everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today and this evening's open iftar. A huge welcome from us all at Ramadan Tent Project. We're really looking forward to interacting with you today, and wherever you are, keep the conversation going and listening to your thoughts as well about how your Ramadan is going and how your Ramadan has been so far. Before I go through the agenda, for those who are joining us for the first time, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Ramadan Tent Project. So imagine it's 2013. Omar Salah, a PhD student at SOAS, has the idea to feed people that Ramadan. So he goes around with a shopping trolley filled with goodies, and he helps for those who are fasting and helps students break their fast that Ramadan. That has culminated step by step in the Ramadan Tent Project that you see today, the amazing, awesome Ramadan Festival 2022 that we have going on this year. Started off with that one idea by that one person to feed people that Ramadan. Now, Ramadan Tent Project is based on the concept of moral leadership, and the aim is to build bridges and compassion and understanding, and to convene and connect and challenge those myths and develop an understanding between communities, between people. And for those who are joining us live this year, to do it over a nice meal. And for those who are joining us virtually this year, to listen to your thoughts, to listen to our guest speakers, and to interact with you guys as much as possible. So for those who haven't joined us, for joining us for the first time, welcome again. This year we're running in-person events across London. And for those who can't join in London, we have events going on across the UK. So if you can, come to an event, talk to somebody new, enjoy a meal, and support us. For those who are outside of the UK, we're running virtual events again. I can see some familiar faces in the Zoom chat as well. But thank you so much for joining us today. I really, really appreciate it. It's so good to have you here. So today's speaker is going to be Dr. Sohail Hanif, who's the CEO of the National Zakat Foundation. And today's talk is going to be reminding people about the duty of Zakat, as well as reminding the people of struggles of Muslims in the UK. Now, before we cut through to the talk, we're going to just see who's joining us on the call today. So we have, let's see, we're going to do a poll for those who haven't joined us in person. Have you attended an open iftar before? Now, whilst we're waiting for some results, I'm going to jump to Rehan. So Rehan's one of our volunteers this Ramadan. How's your Ramadan going?
Alhamdulillah. Yeah, it's going good. Last week, the first day was tiring, but this week this week has been pretty good actually. I think I've been so used to the longer fasts in the summer that this one, everything feels easier by comparison.
It is a lot shorter, isn't it, compared to last year? And I remember fasting over Dhul Hijjah, and for some reason, I found my fast in Ramadan even more challenging than the ones I was doing in July. But I think you're right, we have to sort of ease into it. So Rehan, I'm seeing, so we've got 50-50 mix of those who have attended open iftar before and those who haven't. So Rehan, what do you enjoy most about participating in open iftar?
That's a hard thing. I think it's meeting new people generally, which is quite ironic for me to say because I'm quite an introvert. But yeah, I think maybe it's more doing something physically around Ramadan. Like everyone, I'm the kind of person that always likes to kind of do stuff. Like I know there's always important about dua and Quran and everything like that, which is great for me, but I always feel like Ramadan for me is all about the charity and the volunteering, which it has been for years, and just like it's like that. And like I feel like I'm worshipping through physical actions rather than just through dua, which is obviously important, but it's just something different, I guess.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with you. I mean, like yourself, I've been volunteering for RTP for a few years now, and it's so nice to sort of get out there in the evening, feed people. And some evenings it's really hard, right? So you've had a really long day at work, and you're like tired, you're exhausted, your fast is getting to you. But I find as soon as you get into that tent and set physical space, everything becomes easier, doesn't it? So you have all the different volunteers to interact with, you have all the different guests to interact with, and it's just becomes about making it an evening for everyone else to enjoy. Yeah, like that's on the best thing. And just on the call as well. So we've asked, where is everyone calling in from? We've got mostly from London. Oh, we've got somebody from the Midlands and Northeast. Who's from the Northeast and Midlands today on today's call? Jim, put your hand up. Ah, Jim. Nice to meet you.
Hi.
How are you, Jim?
I probably would describe myself as from the north rather than the northeast. In Sheffield, we're very precious about these things. So we're Yorkshire, not the northeast. Yeah. But it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
First time joining us today. What's made you join today?
I think the concept of it is just wonderful. I've normally attended a number of iftars in person in terms of community iftars and friends iftars, but I was really interested in how the Tent Project was actually going to do this. So I'm just submitting something, and yeah, I'm really interested. It's been a very funny week for me because I'm not Muslim. I fast when I'm with Muslim friends and family, and this week I've just started work in a Muslim organisation where other people are fasting. So I have been fasting a lot of the time, yeah, and it's been great.
Oh wow! And what's going to be for dinner today? What's for iftar tonight?
Oh god, it's very good because I've got a shocking cold, so I'm just looking at a lentil soup.
Lentil soup. That sounds very refreshing.
Oh. Spicy, very spicy. Clear my head.
Oh, clear everything. You'll be absolutely fine after that, won't you?
Yeah.
Habazin's smiling. I'm going to spotlight you. So we've got a mixed response from the poll today. Mostly everyone's getting excited and chills about tonight's iftar. Somebody needs a lift. So by the time we finish, they should not need a lift. Hopefully, yeah, they'll be absolutely fine. How are you feeling, Hawazin? How's it going?
I'm going okay. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm fine. And you?
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Good. I'm excited about tonight's excited about iftar, I have to say today, because I picked up some samosas earlier. So I was like,
nice.
I'm gonna have everything.
Sorry, the question is samosas fried or in the oven?
Yeah, you're right. That's our question every year, isn't it? It's like,
yes.
Fried or in the oven? Well, these are ones I bought from the shop yesterday, so they're fried, and I always thought the fried samosas are superior. Anyone who disagrees with that, pop it in to be great.
That's a big debate inside the volunteer.
I think they've got to be fried. So what about yourself? You know,
so we have something similar.
Yeah.
Am I muted? No. So we have something similar. So I love samosas, but they are a little bit too spicy for me, unfortunately. So I eat something. It's kind of similar in the North African word, I would say, which is brick, which is something Tunisian. Is the same. It's like, you know, you're filling with something and then you fry it. And usually you fry it, but sometimes I do it on the oven. I just like put a little bit of oil, and it's kind of lighter. So I'm trying to be healthy and like not everything fried. But
No, it's difficult in Ramadan, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's always tempting. I know my mum always makes something, like she always makes pakora, so she makes those most nights. But you know, it's still lots of veggies, right? Potatoes, cauliflowers, aubergine. She makes these amazing sweet ones as well with banana in them.
Oh wow!
So, yeah, like mini donuts. So that's like my highlight every Ramadan is like to have those, you know, those sweet banana little donut things. It's so nice. How about you, Sohail? What's for iftar tonight?
What's for iftar tonight? I have to ask my mum. But I've been on the road. I just literally got back just before this call, so I think it's going to be a simple one. That's my guess. So the usual is a bit of fruit salad, and then we'll see what comes along with that. People at home have a mixed relationship with fried food. Like they like it and they feel the treat, and in a few days they get fed up because it doesn't suit their systems. So we have an on-off relationship with fried iftars. So I think currently we're on an off cycle. We started off very on.
And it changes every few days, right?
Yeah.
That's the same with mum. She's like, oh, tonight I'm not going to make pakoras.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not going to do that.
We
And then
smashed the pakoras and spring rolls and samosas so hard that now we're on an off cycle, I think, unfortunately. It's better to go slow.
I think for me, the only consistent meal that I have every Ramadan are oats.
Okay.
It's for breakfast. In some way, shape or form, I will have oats. That's one thing I can have pretty much most days. But when it comes to iftar, yeah, got to change it up. So I'm conscious of the time because I'm sure everyone's eager to hear Dr. Sohail Hanif speak as well. And yeah, I'll do a little intro to Dr. Sohail. But before I do that, in the chat box, we'd love to hear how your iftar's going. Keep it interactive. Post any questions as well that you have about Zakat in the chat box, because we would love to hear from you. You can also follow us on social media. You can tweet, Instagram, Facebook. We're on Facebook Live as well. So anyone has questions who is watching on Facebook, if you post a question on Facebook, it will come to us. So we will know what your question is about Zakat, and we'll be Dr. Sohail, I'm sure, will be happy to answer that as well. And before we start, so today's talk is going to be reminding people about the duty of Zakat and reminding people of the struggles of Muslims in the UK. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Dr. Sohail Hanif. Dr. Sohail Hanif is the CEO of the National Zakat Foundation since November 2021. Now, prior to that, he held the position of BA manager and lecturer at Cambridge Muslim College. And between 2015 and 2017, he was NZS Head of Research and Development. And he's also held the position of Head of Sciences at Qasim Arabic Institute in Amman. Now, Dr. Sohail brings to the role expertise in Islamic law. He studied this extensively with traditional scholars, and he also has a PhD from Oxford University. His PhD thesis explores Islamic legal epistemology, and it won the 2019 prize of the British Association for Islamic Studies. He's also lectured widely on Islamic law and Quranic studies in academic, public, and traditional settings. So, over to you, Dr. Sohail.
Thank you very, very much for that. Thank you for the kind introduction. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. A warm welcome of peace to all of you here in our virtual and hopefully very real iftar that will follow. I just want to say just a few words. So I come from a background in academic Islamic studies. I spent a lot of time working in the field of Islamic law, and I made what was a sort of a very big jump for myself into the space of what you would call the charity space as I joined NZF recently in the position of chief executive. But I felt almost compelled to do so because my decision after my time with Islamic law was that the entire system of sacred law is ultimately about one thing, which is building community. And for me, that is what is at the heart of Zakat. And so what I wanted to share with you all was just 3 points about Zakat. So it was just 3 ways to think about what Zakat is really. And then something about what's happening here in the UK. I'll try and keep my comments quite brief. And I'm very, very happy to have any conversation afterwards or any discussions people would like to have. And inshallah, I can point you to how we can continue this conversation afterwards as well. But the 3 points, the first point, number 1, is what the word means. Just something about the word Zakat. Zakat in Arabic means purification and growth. Why does it mean purification? Because what we learned from this concept and this institution is that as a passage of time passes over our wealth, it no longer belongs wholly to us. A part of it belongs now to the poor. This is the basic idea, that every year, a part of your wealth is no longer yours. It belongs to the poor. We have to give it to them. If we do not give it to them, then it's as if the whole wealth is polluted because we're eating what is not really ours. So I just want to give this sense that we need, for our own sake, before you start talking about society, before we start talking about helping others, we need to help ourselves actually. And we need to make sure that what we eat is pure and wholesome. What we wear is pure and wholesome. What we give our children is pure and wholesome. And right at the heart of that is making sure that we make sure that whoever has a right in our wealth, we give it to them. And zakat is the wealth, is the right of the needy. This is just the first thing I want to make clear. Zakat also means growth, and it's part of the good promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that when we spend for his sake, he will protect us and he will increase us. And so zakat is part of the optimistic premise of faith that when you spend for God's sake, he will give you more. So that's just something about the word and how we have to relate to the word just for our own sakes. The second thing I want to say is about charity and Islam before there was any zakat. And so zakat is an institution that was revealed when the Prophet ﷺ moved to Medina and his migration. But what did the Quran talk about charity before zakat came along? What was the relation between charity and the Quran in Mecca in the early part of the Prophet's mission, ﷺ? The tie was very, very strong. In fact, I'll go as far in saying the Quran, as soon as it came to society, it came with two challenges for its social order. One was the challenge in faith. It challenged people to know the one true God. And one was a social challenge. It told people that, in repeated expression, that if you do not care for the downtrodden, then you will be asked about this. Your success in the afterlife is tied to your concern for the downtrodden. This comes again and again and again throughout the Quranic message, which is why the Quran speaks so often about the yatim, the orphan, the miskin, the impoverished one, and the ibn sabil, the refugee or the alien. These were people in early Arab society. If you don't do anything good for them or bad for them, that they have no protector in that society. And so when Islam came to earth, God and his messenger were the protector of these people. And they made it very clear that if you are not with those who are not represented and those who are downtrodden, you will be in trouble. And various verses talk about this, very, very stern verses as well. Like, for example, Surah Al-Haqqa, which is a Meccan surah, it has a very harsh sort of visual idea of people who are in hell. And the verse says, خُذُوهُ فَغُلُّوهُ, take him and seize him, place him in hell. But why? Just two crimes. إِنَّهُ كَانَ لَا يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ الْعَظِيمِ وَلَا يَحُضُّ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ. Just two ideas. He didn't used to believe in God the Tremendous, and he didn't used to urge people to feed the needy. And so just this idea that care for the needy, care for the downtrodden, being there for those who no one else is there for them, is very core to what it means to be a Muslim. This is just the second thing I want to make clear. The third point is now zakat itself. Zakat arose in Medina. When the Prophet ﷺ moved to Medina, he set the foundations for what we can call Islamic civilization. And he told us that Islamic civilization was built on 5 principles. We call these the 5 pillars of Islam. And these 5 pillars, we think of them, for those, if it's new to anybody, it's the testifying there's one God and Muhammad is the messenger of God, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, praying the daily prayers, fasting Ramadan, giving the zakat, which is what we're talking about today, and performing the Hajj. These are the 5 pillars of Islam. We learn about them often when we're young and when we're children. We think about these 5 pillars typically as 5 acts which are fundamental for our inculcating faith within ourselves. What I'd like to stress now is that these are also the 5 pillars for a particular social vision. And these are, if we look at prayer, prayer is the greatest social institution within Islam, because prayer is something we do together. And for the sake of prayer, we build mosques. And the mosque is a space dedicated to God. No one human being can claim to own. So what the mosque does, it tells people there's something that unites you all beyond ethnicity, beyond language, beyond profession, beyond class, beyond everything. What is it that unites you in this space? It's the fact that all of you belong to, if you like, God and his messenger. So the mosque is the first place which builds a particular identity of faith, a commonality of faith, a coming together in a faith collective. And that's why historically, the mosque was the place that gave birth to so many beautiful social institutions. The university, the courthouse, all of them started in the halls of the mosque, the free space that belongs to God, and everyone there is an equal. And that's why historically, the mosque was the place that would be, that the grand mosque would always be adjacent to the grand bazaar. The mosque was an anchor of social imagination. Even in modern Britain, The grand and central mosques, the main mosques, are where you'll find the main Muslim businesses and Muslim restaurants and Muslim charities and Muslim enterprises and Muslim media houses. The mosque is an anchor of a particular identity of faith. This is the first one, and it's the greatest of them in my imagination. Ramadan, which you guys in this institution we're currently in has really encapsulated, that Ramadan is a social institution as well. Because in Ramadan, we eat together more than any other time of the year. We pray together more than any other time of the year. Ramadan is a buzz of this collective, that we really are one community together, united in faith. And so Ramadan is a collective. And again, this institution which we're currently celebrating and being hosted by really calls forth the truth of this, of how social an institution the Ramadan fast is. Hajj is the meeting of the worldwide collective body of faith, the great social gathering. Zakat is like that. Zakat is not just the charity in general that Islam has urged from the beginning for all people and all creatures and everything. Zakat is a particular institution about building this community of faith. That's why there's two things in the rule of zakat, which all the classical schools of law agreed to. I'd like us to think about. One is that zakat is paid believer to believer. And so zakat at its core is a tie between the community of faith. The message of zakat is all the people of faith are one family, and all the people of faith have a duty of care to each other. So it's not just that you pray together and you know each other in prayer. It's that now you have a duty of care to each other. We have to be there for each other. If any one of us falls, they should have the comfort knowing they have a community that will catch them. So zakat is about the comfort and dignity that arises because you belong to a faith community which has a duty of care to each other. That's the institution of zakat. And there's another thing within zakat, within the classical law, that's quite interesting, which is that zakat is meant to be paid in the place where you live. Because the duty of zakat is it's meant to drive within each of us a sense of responsibility to the faith community. What are the needs where I'm living? Is anybody suffering in silence? The message of zakat is that if you belong to the faith community, you should never have to suffer in silence. You should never have to be forced to beg for help, because this community is there to care for you, to knock on your door, to ask you, are you in need? So we can be there for each other. So I just want to say that prayer and zakat are conjoined about 28 times in the Holy Quran, because these are the most fundamental pillars for building this social collective. Faith is something where we are meant to experience in community. That's the message of these 5 pillars. And that's the duty we all bear, is that are we there to build this collective? And that's why, again, this Ramadan 10 project is really at the heart of not just a nice time to come together, but it's really the institution through which faith arises. And so what the Prophet ﷺ, he said that the hand of God is with the group. When the person is by themselves, that the hadith continues, the devil is with that person, insinuating, whispering, etc. When 2 people are together, the devil is further away. So the idea of everything within the sacred law of Islam, it's how can we come together as a collective? Because it's as the collective that we support each other. It's in the collective that faith is preserved. And the best thing we can do for the next generation of believers is we pass on to them a community strong. So they come to know God, not as outcasts or outliers. They come to know God within the comfort, the security, the solidarity, the peace of community. And that's at the essence of what these 5 pillars are. And of these 5 pillars, just a couple minutes and I'll stop. Of these 5 pillars, zakat is the one that we, I think, have the greatest duty to remind each other of. It's the one that we speak least about and we think least about. And the truth of the matter is, the last thing I'll say is that in our community here in the United Kingdom, a lot of people are suffering. Muslims are disproportionately represented in the poverty scale, more than any other faith community. In this recent cost of living crisis, we at the National Zakat Foundation have seen applications for support almost double over these last few months. So we're struggling to keep up with the people who are asking us for support within our faith community across the United Kingdom. In order to do our work, we actually need to find a way somehow to raise double the zakat. And so all I'm trying to say, just in these last words, and I'll take the discussion, as you like to take it, is that there is a really genuine need here. A lot of people are struggling. In the upcoming months, it's going to get quite challenging for many, many families. So my request to everybody is, first of all, if you're a zakat payer, pay some of your zakat here within the United Kingdom. There is genuine need here, and we need to develop our ties within our faith community, the faith community within which we inhabit, the faith community that surrounds us. This is my first request. Pay at least some of your zakat here, because it really is needed here. National Zakat Foundation is the only organization for nationwide collection and distribution of zakat within the United Kingdom. If you go to our website, nzf.org.uk, you'll find a whole host of calculation services, consultation services, knowledge bank, and you get a sense of how we support people throughout the United Kingdom. And the last thing I'll say is, please do spread the message of zakat amongst your networks, .org. Spread the message of zakat in your networks. If any of you are connected to mosques, please ask your mosque committees, are they willing to share a portion of the collected zakat for UK-based distribution? That's the only thing I wanted to share in these brief moments that I have. I'll be very happy to take any questions and comments, inshallah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was really insightful. And the points you made about community, it is about working as a community. And it's so important not only to have that during Ramadan, but, to support each other after Ramadan, because hardship doesn't ease with Ramadan. We give during Ramadan, don't we? But our hardship doesn't ease necessarily in the months after. So the support throughout the year is really important. And really like that point you made about mosques being the anchor of social imagination. I thought, that was really, really interesting. And how Ramadan, you're absolutely right, it is a social institution. So those are some of the points that stuck out. We've got loads of questions coming in. I'm conscious that Maghrib is in 10 minutes. I'm going to just spotlight, I think, Sipto.
Yes, Cipto. Yeah.
That's
Assalamualaikum, Ustaz Sahil. Thank you very much. Yeah, I want to ask you, what is, as you said, that zakat is one of the most important pillars in Islam, and you said it. Zakat is really important, and it's become the pillar of Islam after Salah. And I just want to know, what is the differences between zakat and sadaqah? Is it quite similar, or and when is the time for paying zakah? Because maybe there is like a literature review or from hadith or from the Quran, it tells that we need to pay zakat in Ramadan a month. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. If you don't mind, I'm going to combine your question also with Jim's question about generosity with other communities. And so what I wanted to say was that zakat is a very particular institution with a very particular purpose, which I said, which is nurturing belonging, dignity, care, solidarity, and faith within the faith community. Zakat is a very small amount of wealth within a very small amount of payment from a very particular form of wealth. Beyond zakat, which is the ongoing expression of faith, from what I said from the beginning of the revelation right until the end, which is this urging to do good. I'm going to interpret sadaqah in its most broad phrase, because the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, smiling is sadaqah. So sadaqah means charity in its broadest framing. Helping someone carry something is sadaqah. Every possible act of good we can do for another human being or even for a creature is sadaqah. So the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there's sadaqah in every moist liver. And what that meant was any creature you can show kindness to, it's an act of charity which will benefit you. And that certainly is, certainly we're in the month of Ramadan. There's a hadith that says the Prophet ﷺ was always the most generous of people, but especially so in Ramadan. And as one of the companions said, because this was the month of reviewing the Holy Quran. So the idea is the Quran is the book that pushes us to do as much good as we can. And so sadaqah in its broadest frame then is all acts of kindness. Anything we do for the sake of God to any creature to any human, any form of help, any display of warmth, any display of service, and of course, any monetary and feeding and etc. So that's just a basic difference. So zakat is a particular duty for a particular purpose, which is to really nurture the solidarity and care and belonging and meaning of being within the faith community. And sadaqah is the broadest expression of good that this faith community is meant to really unleash in this planet. That when we have a strong faith community, its mark is that it's a charitable one, and charitable expression as far-reaching as possible. That's just a little bit of answering both my main comment for Jim and also for this question on sadaqah. The last thing, going back to zakat, when is it paid? So there's rules about zakat. If you go to the nzf.org.uk website, so org is with a G, but I think you can figure that one out. So if you go to the nzf.org.uk website, you can see a downloadable guide, like a zakat guide, and you can see the basic rules of how to calculate. And there's a knowledge bank as well. So it's not only due in Ramadan, it's due in your personal zakat date. If you don't have one, then you can choose one. And it's on that date every year. That's all I'll say, just for that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sahel. Everyone, thank you so much. We're loving all the comments. Do keep the comments coming in. And thank you so much for sharing with us, Noor Joanna. Noor Joanna saying thank you. She was wondering about zakat. Then she found out there was an open iftar with a talk on zakat. And she's really loves how Allah gives answers to our questions. Thank you, Noor Joanna.
That's a very nice comment.
That's really, really kind and generous of you. I'm going to spotlight Mohammed next. Mohammed also has a question. So over to Mohammed.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Sahel. I've got two questions actually. First one was, well, London, a lot of people in London come here for work. Some of us come from abroad. You mentioned about us having to pay in the community that we're in. Do I have the discretion to choose which community I can pay? Let's say, for example, I come from Mozambique. Can I decide whether I pay zakat either in Mozambique or here in the UK?
Yeah, what I'd like to say to answer that question is, if I can just zoom out, and I'm going to end by saying you have to decide for yourself, I think, what you feel is right. But just to zoom out a little bit, I don't want to set a binary or a dichotomy or an either or. It's either all here, it's either all overseas, because we've had such debates in our community in the last decade. What I'd like us to focus on instead is there are particular ties that we have to nurture. One is a family tie. So a family tie is sacred, and we have to make sure we nurture family ties, and the family might not all be where we live, and that doesn't mean that we diminish the value of that tie. There's another tie that's sacred, which is the tie of the faith community where you live. That's a sacred tie that zakat is teaching us how sacred it is, how much it should feel like family. So we have to honor that tie. And so what you're describing is you have a multitude of ties. And so all I'll say is do your best to nurture these ties in the way that seems most fair, most appropriate, and most decent with your setup, because you might have particular circumstances sometimes with family and friends back in Mozambique. You might have other connections here. So I'll just say, between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, see what is the most appropriate to honor your ties. But if you want to answer in a very technical way, what the classical books of fiqh say is that it's where the wealth is. And again, wealth is very digital as well nowadays, but the idea was it's where the wealth is, because the idea is if we're earning here, then the wealth is here, then the poor of here have a right to that wealth. This is how the classical fiqh answers the idea of belonging. It's about where the earning is happening and where the wealth is. Obviously, our age is a bit more digital, but that's just some things for you to think about.
Thank you. The second question I had was whether the relationship towards the person you're giving zakat affects your ability to give zakat to them or not. Let's say there's a immediate family member who's having trouble paying back some debt, and there's some debt collectors involved and things like that. Am I allowed to give zakat to this person? Let's say, for example, this person is my brother or my father or an uncle, someone who's very close, immediate family. Is that allowed or not?
So the basic thing, so zakat cannot go to immediate parents, grandparents, or children, grandchildren. The reason why is because on this vertical line, our wealth typically is so shared, our interests are so unified, it's as if the wealth hasn't completely left us. So parents, grandparents, children, grandchildren, no, this is not a zakat source, but siblings are. And because siblings are a bit removed. And siblings are not just zakat eligible, but they're probably the best people to give zakat. Because like I said, not only are they Muslims in need, but they have a tie. And the tie of family is sacred. So they're of the best things you could do with zakat is to get your sibling or uncle out of debt. But as for parents and children, because the idea is parents have a right on us, whether we give them zakat or not, to get them out of debt. And so that right is so primary and so intimate, then the zakat shouldn't be used for that, because that's a right we already have to do. The zakat should be where that right is not so strong. So siblings, uncles for sure.
Jazakallah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sahel. I'm conscious of the time because we've got Maghrib in a couple of minutes. We've got some more questions. Are you okay to stay for a couple of minutes after Adhan, or would that not be possible for you? You think about that.
To be honest, I feel a duty to answer questions. So what I'll do is, if that's the case, I'll quickly break my fast and come back. And when I come back, I'll stay as long as people wanted to answer their questions.
We'll need you no more than 5 minutes.
I think I scared you because I think you need to have your soup as well.
And pray. So we're going to cut to Zan in about a minute or so. Before we do that, and we're going to ask you to do a short dua. So everyone, do stay with us after Zan to answer a couple of other questions that we've got coming. So over to you, Dr. Sahel, for dua. Then we'll get to Adhan.
And what time is it done? Just to make sure that I stop on time as well.
We've got about a minute left.
Is that about a minute?
So, yeah, we've got about a minute or so.
Fine.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Oh Allah, all praises for you, all thanks is for you, and all gifts are yours. And we can never praise you as you deserve. And we just say, as you've taught us, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Oh Allah, send abundant blessings and peace upon your final messenger, and connect us with him and his sunnah always, and make his love the greatest of love in our hearts, and make us worthy followers of him, and grant us the being with him on the plane of judgment and in the eternity of peace and in paradise. Oh Allah, accept our gathering in this gathering. Oh Allah, grant peace and safety to everyone in this call, and grant them their prayers and a distance from their sorrows, and grant them health and well-being and faith. Oh Allah, send your peace and safety upon all of the believers and upon all of the people on this earth. We ask you to accept our fasts, accept our prayers, forgive us our sins, and to be pleased with us, and to be always in our hearts, and to turn our direction and our gaze always towards you. Wa sallallahu ta'ala ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. I was going to go break my fast and come back. I'll bring some food here. I'll bring some food here. All right.
اللهم إني لك صمت وبك آمنت وعلى رزقك أفطرت ذهب الظمأ وابتلت العروق وثبت الأجر إن شاء الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة وابعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته إنك لا تخلف الميعاد.
Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Sahel. We've a couple of questions, so that's it. So there you go. We have a couple of questions, and just before we wrap up for this evening. But first of all, before we go to questions, just a big thank you, everyone, again, once more, for joining us today. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for supporting Ramadan Tent Project. We are a registered charity, and we haven't been able to host any events the last 2 years. So we're back now, and we would really, really value your support. We would encourage you to donate to our cause through launchit.com. And this year, every donation that you make, it's split with Islamic Relief to feed a fasting person and the public in the UK. And we would really, really value your support. You can go to launchit.com and you can search for Ramadan Tent Project Campaign 2022. I'd also like to thank our sponsors as well this year, who are Here for Culture, Islamic Relief, Share the Meal, Algebra, Hellman's, and YTV. So we really value the support and keeping these events going, so we can put these events on. We can communicate with the public. We can bring communities together. We can dispel myths, and we can create further understanding between communities. Now, Dr. Sahel, we have just a couple of questions for you. One question is from Rehan. So Rehan's question is, Rehan says, there's often a debate about the world, around the world even, about the introduction of a wealth tax. Is there anything we can learn or transfer over from Zakat within this wider debate or discussion? That's Rehan's question.
That's a very good question. I'm not going to say anything overly direct about this. All I will say is, in general, the answer could be yes, and the answer can be no as well. And the reason why is, when we look at the rules of Zakat, Zakat is not a leveler. Like, it's not coming after someone's fixed assets. So if somebody owns mansions and yachts and whatever, Zakat's not going to come after any of these. They don't make it into the calculation. It's a very specific form of wealth that Zakat is on. So Zakat's a very particular kind of payment on a very particular form of wealth. But the reason for this It's so that zakat is easy. So that the mystery of zakat is in the fact that everyone should be able to participate. Zakat is, think of it as a fundamental pillar and not as an act of great sacrifice. The idea is, let's all take part. It's like our tent project again. I bring a date, you bring a sandwich, you'll bring lentil soup, but together we will have a feast. Zakat is this communal feast. And so it's not really a leveler in that sense. Rather, the message of zakat is those who have are reminded they have a duty of care for those who have less. But it's not a leveler that it's on politically left or politically right. You know, it's apolitical in that sense. It's just a duty of care that everyone should be able to take part in and have a communal feast as a result of it. And because of that, I feel you can take this conversation in both directions. You could say in one sense, it's not really in the wealth tax space. It's not a leveler in that sense. It's just reminding people of their duty and inviting everyone to take part in a very easy payment for the public good. And you could take it on the other side and say, it's laying the foundation of a duty of public care. If the public care is not happening, then there's a scope for finding other mechanisms. So what I'm trying to say is you could take this conversation in two ways, but I do want to stress the easy part of it. It is the public feast that everyone's invited to. No one's excluded. It's not anti-rich or pro this. It's just, let's come together and take care of each other.
I love put food into it as well. It's a public feast. So that's great timing with iftar, but that's a very good point. And our last question is from Hawazin, and then Hawazin, over to you.
Yeah, first, thank you so much for your talk. I really enjoy the community aspect that you enlighten every aspect of our faith. In Salat, we are together. During Ramadan, for iftar, we are together. Zakat is community as well, oriented as well. It's like, and Hajj as well. SubhanAllah, I never think about this like this. So a big thank you for this. And my question quickly was how you advise us to organize for Zakat. So we know that now we have apps, there is maybe people writing the amount of money that they're giving, the calculation. How you dealing with this, actually, the organization side of it?
So there's two things, if I got your question. So in terms of how to make the Zakat system real for us here, so currently I think National Zakat Foundation offers a nationwide service where we collect nationally and distribute nationally. What I want to move towards and what I want to build, but with the help of all of you here really, is to really try to develop localized zakat. Because the idea currently is, how can you find zakat within localized networks of support? So you don't always have to go online, because when you do an online process, some people might not be computer literate, some people might not be English literate. And then those, like I said, the real duty of zakat is they shouldn't, we should be able to catch them before they have to beg. The idea is some people are behind closed doors. They don't know where the next bill is going to come, and they're not yet willing to do an application, right? So when you want to have the full system of zakat, so what my hope is for the future of NZF, it's a movement from what I call zakat service to zakat system. That how can we work with communities, with the grassroots, with all of our technology, which we've spent a lot of time working on, to now support real localized networks of care, so that people will get money, but they'll also get the mosque, and they'll also get the iftar, and they'll also get the counseling. There's so many services in our community people need, not just money. So how can we embed our payment of zakat within our community services? And we're already developing, again, I've already developed a sort of pilot product for localized distribution. I'm already speaking with particular mosques and centers. It's an early stage, but for me, the future is about zakat system, so that even if we only pay once a year, we have the 11 months of the year to relax and feel we're part of a system. If we fall into need, it's there for us. If anybody needs, so that's this feeling. How do we feel like we're part of a connected network? So NZF has a great system for nationwide distribution. It really works very well. But yes, what I'd like to move forward with all of your help and insight and contribution is how do we harness that power now to build real networks in very palpable ways.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sohail, and thank you so much for your time today. And for everyone who wants to find out more, you can go to nzf.org and you can find out more about Zakat and Zakat calculator and how to make your Zakat payments. Dr. Sohail, thank you for bringing a new light to Zakat today, and highlighting how it is an act of kindness, that we do need to embed Zakat in our community services. And and also, if you belong to a community, you'll never suffer. So those 3 points really struck me today. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you for all those volunteering today. And inshallah, the rest of your Ramadan goes peacefully. Do make sure you join us at all our London events or UK events or virtual events. And we'd love to hear from you. So thank you once more, everyone. And thank you once more, Dr. Sohail.
Thank you all very much. It was a great honor and pleasure to be here. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Walaikum salam.